Free beer goes to the person that can tell me who that is. Top left corner. Shout it out. No. 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 Hippocratic oath. Who said that? Yes, that's Hippocrates. He found out that the smell of your breath correlates to certain diseases in the human body. Top right, free beer to the next person who can guess that person.
Jenner.
Huh?
Jenner?
No.
Pasteur?
No. That is Antoine Lavoisier. I hope I pronounced that correctly. He's the father of chemistry. He found out that there's carbon dioxide in your breath. And because of these two pioneers, the father of medicine and the father of chemistry, we now know that there are over 3,000 chemicals in your breath. Oxygen and CO2 ratios give you insights into your metabolism and your overall health and wellness of your body. And they're using this to solve tremendous challenges in the health space right now. So much so that NASA's even created a sensor for deep space missions that they use to assess the health of their astronauts, all non-invasively from their breath. And we'll talk a little bit about that later. But there's a problem here, is that these organizations like Johnson & Johnson, GSK, Roche, Novartis, they all want more of this data, but there's a problem. According to the American Journal of Respiratory and Critical Care Medicine, this red area right here represents from ages 20 to 50. We don't know a lot about what happens from a respiratory disease standpoint, from a chronic respiratory standpoint. Pulmonary disease is now the third most leading cause of death globally, according to the World Health Organization. Over 40 million Americans have some form of chronic respiratory disease. And this red box right here represents an area where we don't know why some people get sick and others don't. There's been a lack of big data collection in that area. Why is that? Well, we have technology systems, tons of devices that don't actually communicate data. You guys ever seen a blood pressure cuff? And you get your reading, but where's the data go? Nowhere. Well, the same thing is similar in respiratory. That data goes nowhere, it's not collected. The devices are siloed. There's no software system that's interoperable with any of this sort of stuff. And because of that, we see a lack of commercialization within the respiratory data sphere. And again, these are big organizations that want to focus on chronic respiratory disease solutions and early detection, but they need the data. Introducing Healthmetryx. We are an exhaled breath analytics and artificial intelligence company. Our patent pending wearable device, the clarinet, seen here on TV, on the TV right here. Sounds nice, right? Here on TV. Is a wearable device, paper mask. The sensors are embedded in what we call the clarinet. You breathe into the device and it collects oxygen, CO2, pulse, oximeter, and spirometry data. And it transmits that information to the respiratory cloud machine. Now, the respiratory cloud machine is a platform where users can go and understand more about their health. It leverages deep learning to create and generate health reports, to give assessment on your overall health status and condition. And it also provides health and wellness advice. Now, the future of Healthmetryx is artificial intelligence. We start up here with the monitoring device, connects to the cloud, produces analytics, generates reports, and allows you to build applications on top of that. We originate data through our clarinet device. We originate data through user questionnaires. And we originate data through third-party information, COVID information, geographic information, demographic information, fitness, so on and so forth. Our team of advisors are the big brains behind this. As big as I am, their brains are larger. So I'll give you an example. Dr. Bruce Mulatto is one of our AI advisors, and he advised the South African and Canadian government on COVID policy. He leveraged artificial intelligence to predict the second wave of COVID 2 weeks before it happened, allowing the government critical time and resources to be able to marshal resources at the strategic level, at the tactical level, make sure they had enough hospital beds, et cetera. And he's bringing all that knowledge in-house with us to build out the next generation of AI solutions. Our partners, remember that NASA example I just used? Well, NASA's working with us with that particular sensor to integrate it into the clarinet. That sensor can detect all the chemicals that are in your breath and make correlations that feed the respiratory cloud machine so that you can understand what's going on inside of your body. We're in NVIDIA's artificial intelligence incubator, and with Amazon, they are our artificial intelligence partner. So we're building and launching our AI capability on their network, and Future Electronics, one of the largest producers of microelectronics devices located here in Quebec, is also one of our partners, as well as Electronic Precepts that are doing our device manufacturing. So real world evidence, that's what we generate. All of these organizations you see here on the left leverage real world data, which primarily comes from wearable devices, to instigate clinical investigation. Real world data is collected by non-medical professionals. And to the right is the financial report for IQVIA Holdings. On page 6 of the document, it lists the market for real world evidence as $60 billion. Case study. So Flatiron Health is a company that was acquired by Roche for real world evidence. They took our same approach. Actually, we're copying their approach, but doing it for respiratory and breath data, right? And they have structured and unstructured data. They run it through an AI, and it produces real-world evidence. Roche acquired this company at year 5 because they produced 1.9 million records, and they were acquired for $1.9 billion, $1,000 a record. Right now, with Healthmetryx, we are members of the South African Air Quality Monitoring Consortium. University of Witwatersrand in the top left is partnered with the South African government, where they want to integrate our air quality monitoring, they want to integrate the clarinet into their air quality monitoring system. They want to test over 2.3 million people in Johannesburg, Soweto, Alexandria, and we're much obliged to do that for them. And that will generate $300,000 in annual recurring revenue. UNISA in Brazil signed on for 2 5-year studies. One with their student population, where they want to test the respiratory fitness of their student population and compare that to what the exposure, the environmental exposure environment is. And they also want to partner us with the university hospital for remote patient monitoring testing. We also have assigned a LOI with Hospital Muniz, which is the oldest infectious disease hospital in Latin America. They're out of Buenos Aires. And they want us to do COVID and tuberculosis trials, leveraging the clarinet and a big data analytics platform so that they can gain more insights into the data that's not being captured currently. Good news as well, before we hopped on the plane, we just found out that we got accepted to Johnson & Johnson Labs. So that's another boom for us. And we just got a verbal commitment from the City of Barrie Fire Department, where the firefighters want to leverage our platform to do trial and evaluation, to do longitudinal studies of firefighter health and respiratory monitoring. The US government also allocated $230 billion towards respiratory monitoring for veterans. And we've been in the conversations with the Canadian military as well as the US military on that front. With that, I'll open everything up to the judges.
Thanks a lot, great presentation. You're mentioning that towards the end of your cycle, you have critical data to create interesting applications of use. What do you envision to be your guardrails in ensuring that that data is not used for commercial purposes in terms of feeding back to, let's say, health insurances for those that are feeding in that data, or for those that would then be recommended certain medication from someone that buys that data? So responsible commercialization and usage of that data.
So that is the reason why we are in NVIDIA's incubator for artificial intelligence. That's the reason why we're partnered with Amazon from a data security standpoint. And so data governance is going to be huge in our organization. And we're focusing primarily on those issues, and that's why we attend this conference, to meet vendors that can provide us that capability that we can integrate into our plans.
Thank you. That was really, really interesting. I have a question that's sort of connected to my knowledge here, but how would you envision your business model, let's say, the next, well, medium term, right? So there's really data collection, there's the sort of machinery that you were describing, and then there's really the interpretation and consumption of that data, right? So where do you see yourself sort of in that value chain?
We have a strategy, we call it V.1 strategy, and that is data collection, storage, reporting, base level reporting capability, as well as integrating biometrics into that for user authentication. From there, it's executing on these LOIs and proving out the capability on these LOIs. And then from there, our business model focuses on bringing this collection capability in a B2B offering for what we call the cluster analysis program. And that can be used for occupations like construction, heavy industrial, mining, etc., firefighters, first responders, the military, that want to maintain insights into the respiratory health of the population. So in our model, we're looking at 16 programs after everything's built in 1 year. And those 16 programs generate about 34 million in revenue.
They pretty much answered my question, so.
I have a quick question for you.
Quick question. Can you talk about the sort of the price point, the revenue picture? Are you just focusing on data? Is it both data and the mechanism? What is the price model for?
So it's 2 price points. One, for the data collection program, the device in and of itself is $200, and that provides unlimited testing and data collection. And then on the data sales side of the house, right now, the collection of all these records allow for population health management programs and analytics that portend, for us in our model, they're priced at around $9 a record, and we're projecting a minimum of 3.4 million records over 5 years.
I have a quick question. There was just a couple of
Just go to that mic right there. That should be. Is that my room?
Yes, let's hope this works. It does. Great presentation. Just a couple of questions. I'm not sure if you covered when you really started this and how many people you have.
Sure. So we started this in 2020, going right around the new year, we started really building this out. So right when COVID started, you had the experience of building out a respiratory company during COVID. On the left side, we talk a lot, but on the right side, our advisors are just amazing. So Dr. Maurice Henson is an assistant professor at Cornell University, one of our earliest investors. Willie Merkerson Jr. is in the US Special Forces Hall of Fame, and he knows something about austere environments and environmental exposures. I talked about Bruce Mulatto. We have PhD epidemiologists on the team. We have pharmacologists that teach at the University of Liverpool in the UK. We have a wearable PhD that teaches in Royal Military College here in Canada that's leading our wearable strategy. And as for me, before I started doing all of this, I'm also in private equity and venture capital, but I used to work with the Department of Defense in the US Department of Defense in their National Security Accelerator with all of the inventors from the DoD, NASA, Department of Energy that create these really cool inventions, and I help them commercialize those. Our Chief Marketing Officer, Bob Fawney, over here in the corner, is a biomedical engineer by training out of Boston University. He's been in marketing for the last 20 years in various CMO positions in finance, health technology, and technology.
All right, thank you very much.